Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to distill exactly how the breakneck speed of AI innovation is just completely colliding with outdated, rigid legal frameworks. Let's unpack this together, because the gap between what technology can actually do and what the law understands, well, it's growing by the minute. And honestly, it affects every single one of us.
Before we dive into all the technical details, I want you to keep this one fundamental question right in the back of your mind. Is the law moving fast enough to govern AI? Or maybe more accurately, is the law even moving in the right direction? We're literally witnessing this massive mismatch between dynamic, evolving software and static legislation. Exploring that huge gap is exactly what this explainer is all about.
All right, let's look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with number 1, AI's rapid everyday integration. Then 2, the flawed EU AI Act. 3, outdated laws for new tech. And finally, 4, what this means for you. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, AI's rapid everyday integration. Right off the bat, there's this incredibly stark contrast between Google's super optimistic data on their AI search overhaul and the absolute existential dread coming from independent website publishers. On one hand, you've got Google claiming their AI overviews actually generate more clicks by keeping users engaged. But on the flip side, independent publishers who literally rely on page views to survive are warning of a devastating impact. Think about it. When an AI summarizes an answer right there on the search page, you don't click through, right? The publisher gets nothing, yet the platform still earns money from the surrounding ads. It's an immediate, massive shift in the internet's core economic model.
And these advancements show that generative AI is definitely no longer just some niche experiment. It's rapidly becoming an everything tool that's getting deeply embedded in our daily workflows. Just look at what's hitting the market based on recent announcements. OpenAI has partnered with Plaid to offer GPT 5.5 personal finance insights right from your bank accounts. Google DeepMind is rolling out Gemini 3.5 Flash, which is specifically designed to augment human productivity in complex coding. Meanwhile, Anthropic is pushing into proactive, anticipatory AI with their Glasswing project. So instead of just waiting for your prompt, it anticipates what you need. It's a real game changer.
Let's move on to section 2, the flawed EU AI Act. So here's the absolutely crucial point. European bureaucrats built their groundbreaking AI legislation around this specific idea of intended purpose. Now, this is a foundational concept they borrowed directly from traditional European Union product safety law. Basically, the law says that whether an AI system is considered high risk and therefore subjected to strict safety rules depends almost entirely on the specific context and conditions of its intended use. So if an AI is built specifically for, say, hiring people or for criminal justice, boom, it's high risk. But here is where the logic totally falls apart. By relying on this intended purpose idea, the law absurdly treats a highly capable, constantly evolving general-purpose AI system basically like a household toaster. I mean, think about it. A toaster makes toast. You can test it to make sure it won't burn your house down while making toast. But a general-purpose AI model, like a large language model, it doesn't have just one single intended purpose. It can write code, it can generate recipes, draft legal documents, simulate conversations, the whole shebang. You just can't regulate an infinite-use digital brain using rules built for single-use objects. It makes no sense. Which brings us to section 3, outdated laws for new tech. When we look at things like scaling laws and emergent abilities, this massive disconnect becomes so obvious. Take a look at this. At 8 billion parameters, an AI model might handle basic tasks, simple question answering and arithmetic. But look what happens when a model scales up to 540 billion parameters. Suddenly, these complex, totally unpredictable capabilities spontaneously emerge. We're talking logical inference, translation, advanced coding. The system actually develops abilities that its own creators might not have intentionally trained it for. And that completely defies a static legal framework that literally requires developers to declare an AI's single intended use before it even hits the market. As legal and computer science experts Claire Boyne and David Rolnick point out in this fantastic quote, the AI Act has at least one substantial defect: its attempt to shoehorn generative AI into a framework that was developed by European bureaucrats for older, less complex statistical tools. They hit the nail on the head. Because generative AI lacks a specific prior intended purpose, it totally dodges the high-risk classification. And that leaves most of these massive systems virtually unregulated. The law was built to govern older statistical tools that just spat out probability scores for human decision makers, not dynamic agents that generate entirely new content or interact directly with the open internet. Okay, so to try and address this huge loophole, the EU implemented a threshold.
They decided that any general-purpose AI trained using more than 10 to the power of 25 floating-point operations poses a systemic risk. But researchers are quick to point out that this arbitrary computation threshold is deeply flawed. It assumes that only the most expensive, massive models are dangerous, and that completely ignores the very real harms, like embedded bias, deepfakes, or phishing attacks that can easily be generated by smaller open-source models, or even complex multi-model systems that don't hit that magic 10 to the 25th power number. So, how do we actually fix this mess? Well, experts suggest we stop focusing on mere processing power thresholds and instead adopt these 3 dynamic, adaptable approaches to AI governance. First, we've got to regulate the entire socio-technical system. That means looking at the model, the user interface, the scaffolding, and how humans actually interact with it, rather than just isolated code. Second, implement universal risk assessments and red teaming for all generative AI to constantly test them for vulnerabilities. And third, establish really robust public disclosures. When companies secretly deploy manual hand patches to fix jailbreaks, or when incidents happen, the public absolutely needs to know so society can accurately assess the risks.
Now, let's wrap things up with Section 4, what this means for you.
Here's the reality of your situation right now as an everyday user. Just look at the balance of direct benefits against the risks. In your personal life, sure, you're getting amazing customized tools like GPT 5.5 financial planning, but because the law doesn't properly classify general-purpose AI as high risk, you're largely left unprotected from algorithmic biases or systemic deepfakes. On the internet, you're getting incredibly fast information retrieval from things like AI search overviews, but it's simultaneously risking the potential death of the independent open web. Why? Because content creators aren't getting paid. The bottom line here is that while you gain incredible tools to boost your productivity and manage your wallet, you are simultaneously exposed to these massive systemic risks, all because the law fundamentally treats these dynamic agents like household appliances.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider the next time you use a generative AI tool. If our laws are treating AI like a predictable appliance, who is actually protecting you from the unpredictable? As these systems scale up and gain all these emergent abilities, they are completely outpacing the legal frameworks designed to keep us safe. I really encourage you to keep questioning how we govern the future and stay curious about the systems you're integrating into your daily life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.